Today we're looking at a brand new way to create this number counter effect within After Effects. So have you ever been working on a project using a method that you've known works for years, and then suddenly, bam, you find a new method that does it way quicker and way easier? Well, that was me last week when my After Effects automatically updated to the 2024 version. You see, while working on a client project, I stumbled across something that felt like finding a secret pathway through this crazy complex maze. And this secret shortcut is the number counters effects folder. Now, what used to take minutes fiddling around with expressions can be done in seconds. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through all of these effects. There's actually 4 of them, show you how to use them and even what sound effects to pair up with them, which I know a lot of you guys have been asking for. Plus, for the Premiere Pro users, we're going to be looking at how to set these up as motion graphics templates, which is a little bit trickier than you might think at first. So let's get into it. Alright, let's crack open After Effects and jump straight to the Effects and Presets panel, where if we click on the Animation presets, come down to Text, you'll find my new favorite folder, Number Counter Effects. And if we look in here, there's 4 key options: a timer, a percentage counter, a currency counter, and a custom counter. And all of these effects can be dragged onto any text layer with the styling of your choosing. And for the most part, they're really easy to use, apart from a few minor headaches that I ran into. Now, a quick word on compatibility, and this is important. In order to use these effects, you need to have After Effects version 24.5 installed. From there, it works all the way up with every other version up until 25.01, but for some reason has stopped working in After Effects 25.1. This also means for later on in the video, if you want to make motion graphics templates using this effect for the 2025 version of Premiere Pro, you'll need to have After Effects 25.01 installed, not 25.1. So let's get started with the first scenario. We want to make this currency counter of this guy's bank account go down from multiple millions down to basically 0. So to do this, we're going to use the currency counter monospaced effect. So first, on top of our footage, we're going to create a text layer. Be sure to change the styling to what we want. I'll go with a dark gray color for the text and set the alignment to the right. Then drag that new effect onto it from the folder. Straight away, you'll see a bunch of customizable options. And if we dig a little bit deeper, we can see a bunch of expressions that are already linked up, meaning we don't have to touch them, which is awesome. Now, if we press U on this layer, it's going to reveal all the keyframe properties, and we can see that there's already a preloaded animation going from one value to another value. And we can adjust these values using the Animate value property up in the effects panel. So we can create new keyframes of this, we can change these keyframes, change the easing of it, and change the duration of it. So for this example, I'm going to set the first keyframe to 1000 and the second keyframe to 0. Now the next important setting is the 10x multiplier. Now this multiplies your Animate value number by 10 by each increase. Now you may be thinking, why do we need this? Well, importantly, the Animate value caps out at 1 million. So if we want to go above 1 million, this is where this 10x multiplier comes into play. But when we're using this, it's important to note that it starts at 2. So if we have just 1 in here, it's going to have the original number that we typed in. So with 1000, it's going to show up as 1000. But if we put in 2, it's going to times that by 10. So you basically just minus 1 by whatever number you want to times your number by. So for a further example to see how this 10x multiplier truly works, let's say we want to animate some really large bank account number like Mark Zuckerberg's net worth, which is around $198.9 billion, which is crazy. So I'm going to start by typing in 198.9 into my Animate value. Then I need to turn that into $198 billion. So to do this, I'm going to set the 10x multiplier to 10, because when we are dealing with billions, we are multiplying a number by 10 9 times, meaning we have to enter 10 into the 10x multiplier. Now, going a little bit deeper into this, if we want to have really large numbers, but then have one little digit increase at the end of that, so let's say $1,001,001, you're going to need to use decimal points within that Animate value. So to get $1,001,001, we're going to need to type in 100,000.0001 and then use a 5x 10 multiplier to move those decimal points across. So we have that one value right at the end of the number. So next up on these customizable options is the pad zeros feature. Now, this one is a little bit interesting, and honestly, I'm not going to use it too much, but it can be great for formatting. So in the previous example of $198 billion down to 0, you'll see as it goes through that, it's going to jump around quite a bit because it goes from 12 digits down to 1 digit. But because we're dealing with 12 digits at the start of this counter, if I type in 12 into the pad 0's number, it's going to keep 12 digits throughout this entire counter. Even when it goes down to 0, it's still going to have 12 zeros, so the formatting is going to stay the same. Now, this may be the look that you're going for, it may not be, but it can be a useful feature again for formatting. Moving on from there, we have the next feature, which controls how many decimal places you want for this number. Pretty straightforward, but what I like best about this feature compared to my old method of doing this number counter effect is that we can have more than 4 decimal places and the number formatting is going to be correct, because in that old method, once we got more than 3 decimal places, it started adding commas and it just looked really weird, but this works perfectly. So it's easier and better. And now we come to an even cooler pre-built part of this effect, formatting. So we can adjust the currency format to one of these 3 options, which is great. But from there, we can also select one of 4 different currency types. These options include US dollars, euros, yen, and pounds. Now, I did take a lot of time trying to figure out how I can add different currencies to this drop-down menu, but I couldn't find a way, sadly. Despite that though, I did find a workaround which I'll show you later on in this video. Now from there, we can select whether we want the currency code or the symbol. Now sadly, we can't have both, but there is a way that we can do this that I'll show you later on. But with the currency symbol or code, we can adjust the scale and position independently of the overall number, which is a great feature. Plus, if you want to, you can also toggle off the group separators like these commas. And then finally, we can adjust the spacing, offset, and alignment of the separators themselves to really hone in the look you want. Speaking of alignment, this effect is actually better optimized to keep the alignment of the text as the numbers are counting through. You can see in this comparison that my old method bounced around a fair bit, but this one stays solid and keeps the spacing accurate. So looking at all of this, you can see that currency counters are now super easy. But now let me show you the next one, the percentage counter. Now this one works the exact same as a currency counter. We just drag it onto a text layer and it has all the same controls, except it just has a percentage sign, nothing else. Super simple, but super effective when you want to use that. Let's say now we want to make a timer countdown. Now this is a very common effect that you'll see on a bunch of YouTube videos. And with this drag and drop effect, it is so easy to do now. But there's still a few tricky things that you need to navigate with this. Let me explain. So with this counter, we have 3 different options here. We can work with either minutes and seconds, we can work with hours, minutes, and seconds, or we can work with days, hours, minutes, and seconds. So with these labels, we can customize them, move them around, space them out. Also, you can turn them off and even choose whether we want colons, dots, or spaces between the numbers. But to actually animate this timer countdown, it's a little bit different depending on which formatting option you want to go for. So basically we have this one number control, the animate value, which controls what we see in the days, hours, minutes, and seconds counter. But because we're dealing with time units, it means we're dealing with 24 hours in a day, 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute. So all of those we have to convert into one number value with decimal places. Meaning if you want to do this manually, there's a fair bit of math involved. Now originally I planned on going in depth into this math in this video, but I thought it's kind of just a waste of time. So I just created this online calculator through an Excel spreadsheet where you can just plug in the exact days, hours, minutes, and seconds value you want for your specific counter. And it will give you the exact value to plug into that animate value so you get the correct time every time. So to show you how this calculator works, we just need to go to the row of the format of the counter that you want. So for this example, I want to do 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 50 seconds. So I'm going to go to the second row where it has the hours, minutes, and seconds values and just simply type them in, 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 60 seconds. And straight away, it's going to automatically calculate what value I should type into my animate value. And if I just click on this cell and press Control C, but importantly, don't double click the cell because then you'll copy the entire formula and you don't want that. So just click on it once, Control C, go into After Effects, go to the animate value and paste that number in, and you'll see that now we'll have 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 50 seconds in our counter. But you can actually see that it did say 49 seconds first. So to fix this, all you need to do is go to the last decimal place in that number and then just increase it by 1 if you have these issues. So now this is actually a useful counter, but I really wish Adobe would just have an input for each of those separate values, you know, an input for the days, hours, minutes, and seconds individually so we can control them with exact precision. Who knows, maybe in the future they'll do that, and if someone from Adobe is watching, please. But now we can check out the final counter, the custom counter. Now this one is perfect for adding custom labels to our counters. Like for instance, let's say I want to make this view counter for my channel going into the millions of views. I don't want to use percentage. I don't want to use a currency symbol. I want to use M views. So to begin, we're going to get a text layer and then type in whatever we want our custom label to be. Then we can go grab the custom counter effect, drag it onto our layer, and then come to this drop down menu where we can select whether we want custom text either before, after, or not at all with our counter. This is the way that we can get custom currency codes with our counters. Also, it's important to note that spaces are taken into consideration with this counter. So if you want a gap between your original text and your number, be sure to add a space. Now, if we look at this effect, the rest of the controls work the exact same as the others, but there is one issue, one little glitch that I've found while working with this. If we select our text to show up after the number counter, it doesn't work properly. It kind of treats it as an extension to the number, and all of these 10x multipliers, the animate value doesn't work as it should. If we have the text before the number, it works fine, but after it just gets whacked out. So if you're going to use your custom text before your counter, this works perfect. But if you're going to do it after, I would just have a custom counter and then get another text layer with the label, your custom text that you want, and butt them up against each other, and then it will work fine. Or you could use a method from my other video, which still works great. But now with all of that done, let's get on to the bonus stuff. Now we have this really cool effect here, this number counter going through, but what sound effect do you pair it with? Now this is a question that I myself had for a long time, and a lot of you guys have had too. Now the magic word you need is ticker. So no matter what service you use, if you type in ticker, you're going to get a bunch of different sound effects that you can use in conjunction with this effect, and it's going to work great. But oftentimes we need these sound effects to fill out a little bit longer than they normally are to match our counter effect. Now, because these are just a steady ticker going through, it's actually easy to just cut and copy sections of these sound effects to extend them to the duration of our counter. You just got to make sure that the ticker actually flows on naturally from each section, so you can see if the beats actually match up if you put it on a different layer and extend them out. But now for the big bonus, let's have a look at how to set these up as motion graphics templates so we don't even ever have to touch After Effects when we want to use this effect. Now this took me hours to figure out, but I did find a solution, and I'm going to share with you exactly what I did to make it work. Now I thought to myself, wouldn't it be easy if you just had a motion graphics template you could download yourself, plug straight into Premiere Pro, or even have the After Effects files on hand ready to go? Well, I've made several ready to go templates available now on my new Patreon. On there, you're going to find templates, exclusive videos, and more ways that you and I can connect one-on-one. So if you want to save time, get those templates and help support this channel, there will be a link in the description that you can check out after this video. But if you don't have the budget for that, it's okay, because I'm going to show you exactly how to create your own motion graphics templates within this video, and it's actually not that hard. So if you don't know how to make a motion graphics template, it all depends on the essential graphics panel within After Effects. Now, if you don't see this panel here, you need to go up to Window, come down and click on Essential Graphics. So you want to select the composition that you're creating this template in. And then from there, we can drag in any property that we want to control within Premiere Pro into this panel. So all of those counter settings we can drag into the panel. But importantly, we don't drag them from the Effects Controls panel. We actually have to come down to the text layer, go to the drop down menu, come down to the effects, and then we can click on each of those values and drag that into the Essential Graphics panel. Now I'm going to drag in basically every single one of these settings because it's great to have the control within Premiere Pro for these, except I'm not going to drag in the Animate value property. Because if we look at this, there's actually a keyframe animation going on, and the Animate value, if I drag it in, it's only going to give us control of one value, not the two keyframes. So if I do drag it in and I start to adjust it, you're going to see that the animation isn't going to go through. So we need to do something where I can have control in Premiere Pro of both of these keyframes and then also the duration of this animation, because if I just set it up where I can control the first keyframe and the second keyframe, we're not going to have control over the duration of that animation. It's just going to be the same every time you use this template, and I want it to be customizable. So I went about scouring the internet, searching on Reddit, asking AI solutions to this, and then I eventually found a video that gave me the exact expression that we need. So first of all, to set this up, we're going to go to our text layer with the counter, and then go and get two slider controls and drag them onto this layer. We're going to label the first slider start number and the second slider end number, and you can do that by just clicking on the slider, pressing enter, and then typing in the new name. Then we're going to create a new adjustment layer, Click on that, press enter and label it control. We're also going to drag on another slider onto that layer and label that one duration. This will allow us to control how long the animation actually goes for. So now the important part, we're going to link all of these controls up so we can actually control them within Premiere Pro and drag them into our essential graphics panel. So we're going to go to our original text layer, go to the drop down menu, come down to the effects and find the animate value property. We're going to alt click on this stopwatch icon to bring up the expressions window. And then you're going to want to type in this expression. So I'll have this in the description down below so you can just copy and paste it into your expressions window yourself. So with the base of this expression typed in, we're going to want to make sure that we have the effects controls panel open up for our layer with the start number and end number slider available. And then you also want to scroll up to the control adjustment layer and then click the drop down menu so we can see the duration slider there as well. Now going back to the second line in this expression, we're going to go to the D equals part. After the equals, we're going to place our cursor and then come across to this pick whip icon over here and then drag from that pick whip icon up onto the slider part of that effect. And you'll see that it now pastes in this little bit of an expression where it says this comp.layer brackets controls effects duration slider. So now with this linked up, it's going to allow us to control the duration of this effect. Then we're going to come to the third line, and then after the D comma, we're going to place our cursor again, and this time go to the pick whip icon, drag up to the start number slider, place another comma, and then drag from the pick whip icon once more to the end number, making sure there's just a bracket to close off this expression. And if we click out of the expressions window, you'll see that if I adjust the start number and the end number, and then also the duration on that control level, you'll see that we now have control of all of this, which means that I can now drag these sliders into the essential graphics panel and I can control all of these values within Premiere Pro. Now I want to give a huge shout out to the person who showed me this expression, EC Abrams. He makes great videos and it really allowed me to achieve this effect and make these motion graphic templates. So without him, couldn't have done it. So if I type in 5 into our duration slider, it means the animation is going to go for 5 seconds. And if I type in 0 into the start number and 100 into the end number, providing I don't have the 10x multipliers, it's going to go from 0 to 100 over 5 seconds. Now, one little extra thing you might want to do with these motion graphics templates is come over to the slider values and click edit range, and then just make the slider range from 0 to something like 10,000. So it gives you a few more values to work with. Otherwise, you're gonna have to use the 10x multiplier and a lot of decimal places. For the duration, I would just leave it at 100, but if you wanna have a counter that goes longer than a minute, just make sure that your composition length is longer than what you need. So you just come to composition settings, make sure the duration is over 1 minute for you, or however long you want your motion graphics template to be, and then just drag out that text layer to fill it up. Then once you have all the controls in, including some text formatting, some color controls, which we can get into in a different video, just come down and export that motion graphics template to a local folder, and you'll have it in Premiere Pro ready to go. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you, and I hope you found it a little bit easier than my previous method to create this effect. Now I can't wait to see what you guys produce with it, and if you want to get these templates and help support this channel, head over to my Patreon now. Super excited to see you guys over there. Peace, and remember, you're only one video away. Get after it.